The great chamber of Nexus Prime Station stretched out like a cathedral built for gods. Crystalline walls rose 300 feet high, reflecting light from 1,000 worlds. At the center of the vast room sat the council seats, arranged in a circle that had stood for 10,000 years. This was where the elder races made their decisions. This was where they ruled the galaxy. Ambassador Chen Wei walked across the polished floor. Her footsteps echoed in the massive space. She wore a simple dark blue suit, nothing fancy. The other ambassadors watched her approach. Some looked at her with curiosity. Others looked at her with something that might have been pity. Chen had been Earth's representative to the Galactic Council for 8 years. She knew every face in this room. She knew their voices, their habits, their secrets. She thought she knew what to expect from them. Today she realized she had been wrong. The Valorian High Speaker rose from his seat. His body was made of living crystal that caught the light and threw rainbows across the walls. He was old, maybe 5,000 years old. His kind had been traveling the stars when humans still lived in caves. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "Ambassador Chen Wei of Earth," he said, "we have called you here to discuss a matter of great importance. A matter of survival." Chen stopped at the center of the circle. She stood alone, surrounded by representatives of 200 alien species. She felt very small. She felt very human, but she kept her back straight and her face calm. "The Council is always happy to discuss important matters," she said. "Earth listens." The High Speaker's crystalline face shifted. It might have been a smile. It might have been something else. "Does Earth listen?" he asked, and we wonder about this. "For 73 years your species has been part of our council. You have been quiet. You have been agreeable. You have asked for little and given less. We thought this was wisdom. We thought you understood your place." Chen felt something cold settle in her stomach. She had heard this tone before. Not in this room, but in history books, in recordings of old wars, in the moments before everything went wrong. "Earth understands its place," she said carefully. "We are grateful for the Council's guidance." "Grateful," the High Speaker repeated. The word hung in the air like smoke. "Yet your gratitude does not match your actions." A new voice spoke from Chen's left. It buzzed and clicked, the sound of 1,000,000 insects speaking as one. The Zephix ambassador moved forward. Its body was a swarm of small creatures held together by a hive mind. Individual bugs broke away and reformed constantly, making its shape fluid and strange. 3 months ago, the Zephix said, "we discovered weapons facilities on your colony world of New Brisbane. These weapons violate Council law. They violate the treaties your species signed." Chen kept her face neutral. New Brisbane. She knew about New Brisbane. Every human in the government knew about it. It was a manufacturing world, yes. It made tools, ships, components. Weapons, technically, yes, but nothing that violated Council law. Nothing that should matter. New Brisbane produces defensive systems, Chen said. Small arms for colony protection. Point defense systems for asteroids. Nothing prohibited. Defensive. The Zephix buzzed with something that might have been laughter. "You humans have interesting definitions. We found plans for singularity weapons, for quantum disruptors, for technologies that could crack planets." "Plans are not weapons," Chen said. Her heart was beating faster now. "Research is not deployment. The Council itself conducts research into—" "We are not discussing the Council," the High Speaker interrupted. His voice cut through the air like a blade. "We are discussing Earth. We are discussing humanity's expansion. Your species has grown too fast, too aggressive. You claim 57 colony worlds. You claim a fleet of 300 ships. You claim peaceful intentions." The word claim hit Chen like a physical blow. They didn't believe the numbers. They had been watching more carefully than Earth thought. A third voice joined the conversation. This one was deep and slow, like stone grinding against stone. The Krell ambassador stood. He was 12 feet tall, covered in thick armor plates that had been growing for 3,000 years. His kind had conquered 40 species before joining the Council. They understood strength. 49 years ago, the Krell said, a human frigate destroyed a Valorian science vessel. 300 Valorian lives were lost. Your government called it self-defense, called the Valorians pirates. They were pirates, Chen said. She couldn't keep the heat out of her voice now. They attacked first. They tried to board a human medical transport. We have recordings. We have evidence. Evidence can be manufactured, the Krell said. Stories can be told. We see a pattern, Ambassador. Human ships appear in disputed territories. Conflicts happen. Humans survive. Others do not. This happens again and again. Chen looked around the circle. 200 species, 200 representatives. Not one of them met her eyes. Not one of them spoke in Earth's defense. The cold in her stomach spread to her chest. "What does the Council want?" she asked quietly. The High Speaker's crystal body flashed bright, then dark. "Compliance," he said. "Safety. Order. Earth will reduce its military fleet by 40%. The ships will be given to Council oversight. Your colony worlds will accept Council peacekeepers. Your weapons research will be monitored. Your expansion will be limited to Council-approved sectors. And if Earth refuses, then the Council will ensure compliance." The High Speaker's voice held no emotion. No anger, no regret. Just certainty. "We have maintained peace in this galaxy for 10,000 years. We will not allow one species to threaten that peace. Not even humanity." Chen felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. This was the decision point. This was where everything would change. She thought about Earth, about the billions of humans living their lives unaware that their future was being decided right now in this alien chamber. "I need to speak with my government," she said. "This decision is beyond my authority." "Of course," the High Speaker said. "You have 48 hours. Return here with your answer." Chen turned to leave. She made it 3 steps before the High Speaker spoke again. "Ambassador Chen, one more thing." She stopped, didn't turn around. "In the interest of ensuring your government understands the seriousness of this matter, we are deploying Council security forces to several human stations. This is precautionary, protective, nothing more." Chen closed her eyes. Council forces. Already moving. Already in position. This wasn't a negotiation. It never had been. This was a demand with a gun pointed at Earth's head. "I understand," she said. She kept walking. The corridors of Nexus Prime were less grand than the Council chamber, but still impressive. Curved walls showed holographic displays of thousands of worlds. Aliens of every shape and size moved through the passages, going about their business. Chen walked past them all without seeing them. Her mind was racing. She reached her quarters and sealed the door. The moment it locked, she activated the quantum communicator. It was humanity's most advanced technology, allowing instant communication across any distance. The Council didn't know humans had it. The Council didn't know a lot of things. The screen flickered to life. Fleet Admiral Sarah Kozlov appeared, her steel gray hair pulled back tight, her uniform perfect. She was in the war room beneath Geneva. Behind her, Chen could see dozens of officers working at stations. "Ambassador," Kozlov said. No greeting, no warmth, just business. "We've been monitoring. We heard everything." "Then you know," Chen said. "They're not negotiating. They're dictating. We know. We also know their security forces are moving. We're tracking 47 Council warships approaching human space. They're not trying to hide it." Chen sat down heavily. "Sarah, I don't think we can avoid this." "We're not going to avoid it," Kozlov said. Her voice was hard. "We're not going to comply either. Earth doesn't bow to threats. They'll attack," Chen said. "The Council has never lost a war, never. They have resources from 200 species. They have weapons older than human civilization. If we fight, we lose," Kozlov interrupted. "That's what they think. That's what they're counting on. They think we're weak. They think 73 years of peace means we've forgotten how to do anything else." Chen looked at her old friend. They had known each other for 30 years. They had trained together in the early days of human space exploration. Chen had chosen diplomacy. Kozlov had chosen the military. Different paths toward the same goal, keeping humanity safe. "Have we forgotten?" Chen asked quietly. Kozlov smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "No, Chen, we haven't forgotten anything. We've been preparing. Every single day since we met the Council, we've been preparing for this exact moment." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying go back to the Council in 48 hours. Listen to what they say. Play your part. And trust that Earth knows what it's doing." The screen went dark. Chen sat alone in her quarters thinking about Kozlov's words. Trust that Earth knows what it's doing. But what was Earth doing? What could they possibly do against the combined might of the Galactic Council? Her communicator chimed. A message from the Nexus Station authorities. New security protocols. All human personnel were to remain in designated areas. For their own safety, the message said. For their protection. Chen stood and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the stars, thousands of them, scattered across the black like diamonds on velvet. Somewhere out there was Earth. Home. The little blue world that had sent its children to the stars hoping for friendship and finding something else entirely. She thought about what the high speaker had said. They thought humans were aggressive. Too aggressive. Too dangerous. But humans had learned their lessons well. They had learned from their own bloody history. They had learned that the strong take from the weak. They had learned that peace only lasts as long as the powerful allow it. Had Earth really been preparing? And if so, preparing what? Chen touched the window, her fingers leaving prints on the cold glass. In 48 hours, she would have her answer. The whole galaxy would have its answer. The hours passed slowly. Chen tried to work, tried to prepare arguments and counter-proposals. But she knew it was useless. The Council had made their decision. Now Earth would make theirs. On the second day, news arrived. Chen was in a meeting with the Andorian ambassador, a kind soul who had always supported Earth when her emergency channel activated. She excused herself and took the call in private. It was one of her aides. His face was pale, his hands shaking. "Ambassador," he said. "New Havana. The Council. They've opened fire on New Havana." The world seemed to tilt. New Havana. A colony world. Population 40,000, families, children, schools and parks and people living their lives. "What?" Chen heard herself say. "That's impossible. We still have 6 hours before the deadline. They're saying it was a preemptive strike. They're saying New Havana was harboring weapons. They're saying it was necessary." The aide's voice broke. 40,000 people, Ambassador. 40,000. Chen felt something crack inside her chest, something cold and furious. The Council hadn't waited for Earth's answer. They had made their own answer. They had killed human civilians to make a point. They had crossed the line. She cut the connection and stood very still. Around her, the station continued its normal operations. Aliens walked the corridors, unaware or uncaring that humanity had just been attacked, that children had just died to prove a point. Chen walked back to her quarters. She didn't run. She didn't cry. She moved like a machine, step by step, until she reached her door. Inside, she activated the quantum communicator one more time. Admiral Kozlov was waiting. Behind her, the war room had changed. Every station was occupied now. Every screen showed tactical displays. Every officer wore the expression of people going to war. "I assume you heard," Chen said. Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. "We heard," Kozlov said. New Havana sent the distress signal 17 minutes before the attack. Most of the population evacuated. Casualties are high, but not as high as the Council thinks. Chen blinked. "Evacuated? How did they know?" "Because we told them," Kozlov said simply. 3 days ago, we warned every human colony to prepare for emergency evacuation. We knew the Council would strike. We didn't know where or when, but we knew. "You knew," Chen repeated. "You knew they would kill civilians." "We know how empires work," Kozlov said. "We know how power works. The Council rules through fear. They had to make an example. So we let them, and now the whole galaxy will see what happens when you make an example of humanity." Chen felt tears on her face. She hadn't realized she was crying. "What happens now?" Kozlov looked directly into the camera. Her eyes were hard as diamonds. "Now," she said, "now we show them what humans really are. Now we erase the Council. All of it, every ship, every station, every threat to human lives. They'll fight back," Chen said. "They'll destroy us." "They'll try," Kozlov agreed. "But Chen, I need you to understand something. Everything the Council knows about humanity is a lie. Our population, our fleet, our technology, our intentions, all of it. We've been hiding in plain sight for 73 years. We've been building and preparing and waiting for the moment when the mask would have to come off. And this is that moment." "This is that moment," Kozlov confirmed. "Stay safe, Ambassador. Keep your head down. In a few hours, the galaxy is going to change forever." The screen went dark. Chen sat in the sudden silence. Outside her window, the stars continued their eternal dance. Beautiful, indifferent, unchanged by the small dramas of mortal beings. But they would change soon. Everything would change. The Council had killed 40,000 humans to prove their power. They were about to learn what power really meant. The emergency session of the United Earth Government convened in a bunker 3 miles beneath Geneva. The room was designed to survive direct nuclear strikes. Today it might need to survive something worse. Planetary bombardment, antimatter weapons, the full wrath of a galactic empire that had never known defeat. Admiral Sarah Kozlov stood at the head of the conference table. Around her sat the representatives of every major nation on Earth, the President of the Americas, the Premier of the Asian Coalition, the Chancellor of the European Federation, the leaders of Africa, Oceania, and the scattered colonies beyond Sol. Every face was grim. Every eye was on her. "They killed our people," the American president said. His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the table edge. 40,000 civilians. They didn't even wait for our answer. They waited exactly as long as they intended to, Kozlov said. The council wanted us afraid. They wanted us compliant. They wanted to prove they could strike us anywhere, anytime, and we couldn't stop them. "Can we stop them?" the African premier asked. She was young, sharp, and didn't waste time on gentle questions. "Everyone in this room has seen the reports. The council has 200 member species, thousands of warships, weapons technology developed over millennia. We've been in space less than 400 years. So I'll ask again, can we actually stop them?" Kozlov smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Madam Premier, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level. Most of you don't have clearance for this information. But given that we're about to declare war on the most powerful empire in the galaxy, I suppose clearance doesn't matter anymore." She activated the holographic display. The center of the table lit up with images, ships, weapons, installations, numbers that scrolled past too fast to read. "The council believes Earth has a population of 12 billion, Kozlov said. "They believe we have 57 colony worlds. They believe we operate a fleet of 300 ships." She paused. "Every single one of those numbers is a lie." The room went very quiet. The European Chancellor leaned forward. "Explain." 73 years ago, when we first made contact with the Council, we made a decision," Kozlov said. "We looked at their empire. We studied their history. We learned how they treated species they considered weak. And we decided that humanity would never be considered weak again. But we also decided that appearing weak was the best protection we could have." She touched a control. The display changed. New numbers appeared. Much larger numbers. "Earth's actual population is 47 billion, Kozlov said. "We have 238 colony worlds. Most of them are hidden in systems the Council hasn't explored. Dark worlds. Difficult worlds. Places no one else wanted. We've been settling them in secret for 6 decades. "That's impossible," someone whispered. "The Council monitors all human ships. They track our movements. They track the ships we let them see," Kozlov agreed. "We have 2 fleets. The public fleet of 300 ships that visits Council space, trades with Council species, and behaves exactly as expected. And then we have the real fleet." The display zoomed out. The room gasped. 8,372 warships, Kozlov said, built in hidden shipyards, crewed by people who officially don't exist, equipped with technology the Council has never seen. The Asian premier stood up. His chair scraped against the floor. 8,000 ships? Where did we get the resources? The materials? The people? From the dark colonies, Kozlov said. From automated manufacturing systems that work around the clock. From a population that knows the truth about the galaxy. Every citizen of a dark colony understands that we're preparing for war. They've been building for it their entire lives. They've been training for it, waiting for it. She changed the display again. Now it showed weapons, designs that looked like nothing the Council used. Technology that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Quantum displacement drives, Kozlov said, pointing to one design. We can move ships instantly across light years. No travel time. No warning. We appear, we strike, we vanish. Another design. Singularity weapons. Artificial black holes that we can control and direct. They eat matter, energy, even exotic particles. There is no defense against them because they consume the defense itself. A third design. AI-assisted combat systems. The Council banned artificial intelligence 2,000 years ago. They fear it. They limit their computers to simple calculations. We don't have that limitation. Our ships think. They learn. They adapt in real time to any threat. The room was silent. Every face showed shock, horror, and something else. Something that might have been hope. How long? The European Chancellor asked. How long have you been building this? Since first contact, Kozlov said. We started the day we learned the galaxy had rules, had power structures, had empires. We remembered our own history. We remembered what happens to the weak, and we swore humanity would never be weak again. But why hide it? The American president asked. If we had this power, why not reveal it? Why not force the council to respect us? Because respect built on fear is temporary, Kozlov said. The council would have seen us as a threat. They would have united against us. 200 species working together to eliminate humanity before we became too strong. No, the better play was to seem harmless, to seem grateful for their protection, to smile and nod and build our strength in the shadows. And now? The African premier asked. Now they've attacked us. Now the mask comes off. Now we show them what humans really are, Kozlov said. We show them what happens when you threaten human children, when you kill human families, when you cross the line that should never be crossed. She touched another control. The display showed the galaxy. Red dots marked council military bases, hundreds of them scattered across known space. Blue dots marked human forces. They were everywhere, in positions the council didn't know existed. Surrounding installations the council thought were safe. We're going to hit them all at once, Kozlov said. Every military installation, every fleet base, every command center. We're going to strike so fast and so hard that they won't have time to coordinate a response, and we're going to do it in the next 6 hours. 6 hours? The Asian premier said. That's not enough time to coordinate an attack of that scale. It is when you've been planning it for 73 years, Kozlov said. Every ship already knows its target. Every crew already has their orders. We've run simulations 1,000 times. We know every council defense, every tactic, every response. We've been preparing for this war since before most of you were born. The American president stood up. And civilian casualties? The council has populations on all those bases, families, children of their own. Kozlov's expression softened slightly. Every target has been chosen to minimize civilian casualties. We're not the council. We don't kill children to make points. Every strike will be surgical. Precise, we're destroying military capabilities, not populations. They won't see the difference, the European chancellor said. To them we'll be monsters. Let them think what they want, Kozlov said. When this is over, they'll be alive to think it. That's more mercy than they showed New Havana. She took a deep breath. This was the moment. The decision point where everything changed. I need authorization, she said. From all of you. To activate the Dark Fleet. To begin the attack. To start a war that will reshape the galaxy. This is not my decision alone. This is humanity's decision. One by one they stood. The President of the Americas. The Premier of the Asian Coalition. The Chancellor of the European Federation. Every representative of Earth's nations. They had their differences, their conflicts, their 1,000 small disagreements, but in this moment they were united. Authorized, the American president said. Authorized, the Asian premier agreed. Authorized, the African premier said firmly. Around the table the word repeated. Authorized, authorized, authorized. Kozlov nodded. She touched her communicator. General Chen, this is Admiral Kozlov. Authorization code, broken arrow. Repeat, broken arrow. Execute Operation Damascus. In orbit above Earth, a signal went out. It traveled through quantum communicators to every corner of known space. It reached ships hiding in dark nebulas, stations buried in asteroid fields, soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment. The Dark Fleet activated. In the Tarkus system, 300 light-years from Earth, Commander James Martinez sat in the captain's chair of the stealth carrier Invisible Hand. Around him, his bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. They had been maintaining position in the outer system for 3 months, watching, waiting, learning the patrol patterns of the council base on Tarkus III. The base was a logistics hub. Supplies for council fleets operating in this sector, ammunition, fuel, repair facilities. It was defended by 30 warships and a network of automated defense platforms. The council considered it impregnable. The council was about to learn a hard lesson about assumptions. Signal received, his communications officer said. Authorization confirmed. Operation Damascus is active. Martinez felt his heart rate increase. 3 months of waiting. 3 months of silence. Now finally action. All ships, battle stations, he ordered. Prepare quantum displacement. Target packages Alpha through Delta. Engage on my mark. Around the invisible hand, space seemed to ripple. 200 ships faded into visibility. They had been there all along, hidden by stealth fields that bent light and masked energy signatures. Now they dropped their camouflage and prepared to strike. All ships report ready, his tactical officer said. Martinez looked at the display. The council base sat there unaware. Ships moved on routine patrols. Workers went about their tasks. They thought they were safe. They thought the rules protected them. The rules had just changed. Mark, Martinez said calmly. Space twisted. The laws of physics bent. 200 human warships vanished from the outer system and reappeared directly above the council base. Quantum displacement. Instant travel. No warning. No defense. The human ships opened fire. Singularity weapons lanced out. Small black holes formed in space, each one carefully controlled and directed. They touched council ships and ate them. The ships didn't explode. They didn't burn. They simply ceased to exist. Matter and energy disappearing into impossible gravity wells. Defense platforms activated automatically. They fired streams of plasma at the human ships. The plasma hit human shields and dispersed harmlessly. The shields were quantum phased. They existed in multiple dimensions at once. Conventional weapons couldn't touch them. Human missiles streaked toward the base. Not explosives. Not antimatter. Electromagnetic pulse weapons that would disable systems without destroying them. The base's shields lit up, trying to block the attack. The missiles phased through the shields as if they weren't there, and detonated inside the base perimeter. Every system on the base went dark. The entire engagement lasted 7 minutes. When it was over, the council fleet was destroyed. The base was disabled, and Martinez's ships vanished again, jumping via quantum displacement to their next target. Total human casualties, 0. The council hadn't managed to fire a single shot that connected. The same scene played out across 200 systems. Human ships appeared without warning. They struck with weapons the council had never encountered. They disabled or destroyed their targets with brutal efficiency, and they vanished before reinforcements could arrive. In the war room beneath Geneva, Admiral Kozlov watched the reports come in. Green lights lit up across the galactic display. Target neutralized. Target neutralized. Target neutralized. Beside her, General Chen spoke quietly into his communicator, coordinating the attack. He was her brother, though few people knew that. He commanded the ground forces that would be needed if this escalated to planetary assault. First wave complete, he reported. 87% of primary targets neutralized. The remaining 13% are hardened installations that will require follow-up strikes. Casualties? Kozlov asked. Minimal. We lost 3 ships to unexpected defenses. The crews evacuated successfully. No fatalities, Kozlov nodded. And council casualties? Exactly as planned. Military personnel only. And most of those were given the chance to evacuate before we struck. We're not monsters, Sarah. No, Kozlov agreed. We're not. But they're going to call us monsters anyway. On Nexus Prime Station, Ambassador Chen Wei felt the station shudder. Alarms began to sound. Through her window, she saw flashes of light in the distance, explosions. The beautiful display of warfare in the void. Her communicator chimed. Emergency broadcast. Council security ordering all personnel to shelters. She ignored it and activated her quantum link to Earth. Admiral Kozlov appeared immediately. Ambassador. Are you safe? Safe enough, Chen said. What's happening? What needs to happen, Kozlov said. We're hitting every council military installation simultaneously. They can't coordinate. They can't respond. By the time they understand what's happening, it will be over. Chen watched another explosion bloom in space. How long have you been planning this? Since before you became ambassador, Kozlov admitted. We knew someday the council would see us as a threat, would try to control us or eliminate us. We've been preparing for this day your entire career. You used me, Chen said. There was no anger in her voice, just understanding. You used my ignorance to sell the lie. I really believed we were weak. Your belief made you convincing, Kozlov said. The council trusted you because you trusted them. That trust let us get close. Let us learn their secrets. Let us position our forces without suspicion. Chen thought about the high speaker, about his crystalline face and his certainty, about how he had looked at her with something like pity. He had thought her weak. He had thought humanity weak. He was learning otherwise right now. What do you need from me? Chen asked. Stay alive, Kozlov said. Bear witness. When this is over, someone will need to tell the true story, someone the galaxy might actually believe. The connection cut. Chen stood at her window and watched the galaxy change. In the distance, council ships were scrambling to launch. Human ships appeared among them like ghosts, like demons, like the fury of a species that had been pushed too far. The council had crossed a line. They had killed human children. They had thought there would be no consequences. They were learning the truth. When you cross the line with humanity, there is always a consequence, and it comes faster than light. The Battle of Nexus Prime began 20 minutes after the first wave of human attacks hit council installations across the galaxy. The station was the heart of council power. It had stood for 10,000 years. It had survived 3 major galactic wars. Its shields could withstand the blast of a supernova. Its weapons could destroy entire fleets. None of that would matter in the next 6 hours. Captain Rebecca Torres commanded the dreadnought Indomitable. The ship was 2 miles long and carried enough firepower to glass a planet. It had been built in secret at the dark shipyards of Erebus Station, assembled by workers who had never seen Earth. Torres herself had been born on a dark colony. She had trained her entire life for this mission: destroy Nexus Prime, break the Council's power, show the galaxy that humanity could not be threatened. All ships report ready, her tactical officer said. Lieutenant Kim was young, brilliant, and had ice in her veins. Torres liked that. In battle, emotion got people killed. How many do we have? Torres asked. 3,216 warships, Kim reported, plus support craft, marines for boarding operations, and medical frigates for casualty evacuation. 3,000 ships. The Council thought humanity had 300 total. They were about to get a very unpleasant surprise. Torres looked at the main display. It showed Nexus Prime in all its glory. The station was a ring 100 miles in diameter. At its center floated an artificial star that provided power. Around it moved thousands of smaller vessels, transports, shuttles, civilian craft. The station had a permanent population of 3 million. Humans, yes, but also representatives of every Council species. Confirm civilian evacuation, Torres ordered. I want every non-military ship clear of the engagement zone before we start. Broadcasting evacuation order now, Kim said. We're using Council emergency frequencies. Telling them this is a drill. It was a lie, but a necessary one. Panic would cause more deaths than the battle itself. If they thought it was a drill, people would evacuate calmly, orderly. By the time they realized the truth, they would be safe. Council Defense Fleet is responding, the sensor officer called out. I count 473 warships. They're forming a defensive perimeter around the station. 400 ships. Good odds for the Council, if this was a normal engagement. If they were fighting a normal enemy. But humanity had stopped being normal the day they decided to survive in a hostile galaxy. Quantum displacement in 30 seconds, Torres said. All ships arm singularity weapons. Target packages as assigned. Remember, we're here to destroy military capability, not people. Stay sharp, she counted down in her head. 30 seconds, 2010, the universe twisted. 3,000 human warships vanished from their hiding positions and reappeared in a perfect sphere around Nexus Prime. They emerged from quantum displacement directly behind the Council defensive line. No warning, no buildup, just sudden overwhelming force. The Council fleet tried to respond. Ships spun, trying to bring weapons to bear on enemies that had appeared out of nowhere. Commanders shouted orders. Weapons charged. But they were too slow, too predictable, too used to fighting by rules that no longer applied. The human fleet opened fire. Singularity weapons lanced across space. Small black holes formed in perfect lines, each one aimed with computer precision. They touched Council ships and reality screamed. Matter collapsed. Energy disappeared. Ships that had served for centuries simply ceased to exist, pulled into artificial gravity wells that crushed them to nothing. The Council returned fire, plasma beams, antimatter missiles, kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. The weapons hit human shields and splashed harmlessly away. Quantum-phased barriers bent space itself. The Council weapons existed in normal space. The human shields existed in multiple dimensions. They never actually made contact. Torres watched the engagement with cold efficiency. Target the command ships first, she ordered. Cut off their coordination. Human missiles streaked toward the largest Council vessels. The Council ships activated point defense. Lasers tried to intercept the missiles. Some succeeded. Most didn't. The missiles that got through didn't explode. They phased through the hull and detonated inside the ship, releasing electromagnetic pulses that fried every system instantly. Command ships went dark. Their crews sat in sudden silence, systems dead, unable to communicate or coordinate. They became floating targets. Council defense platforms are activating, Kim reported. Nexus Prime has 200 integrated weapon systems. They're all targeting us now. Expected, Torres said. Execute countermeasure Gamma. The human fleet split. Ships scattered in patterns that looked random but were carefully calculated. They moved in 3 dimensions, up and down and sideways, making themselves impossible to track. The defense platforms fired at where the ships had been, not where they were. Human fighters launched. Thousands of them, small and fast and deadly. They screamed toward the defense platforms in swarms. The platforms tried to target them, but there were too many, moving too fast. The fighters released their payloads, smart missiles, each one with a rudimentary AI that thought and adapted. The missiles dodged incoming fire, adjusted course mid-flight, and found their targets with unnatural accuracy. They hit the defense platforms and tore them apart from the inside. Platform grid down to 40%, Kim reported. 30%, 20, 10%. Grid destroyed. 6 minutes since the battle started. Already the Council's defenses were shattered. Torres felt no joy in it. This wasn't sport. This wasn't glory. This was necessity. This was what happened when you threatened humanity. Council fleet is breaking, the sensor officer said. Ships are trying to escape. Let them go, Torres ordered. We're not here to chase down individual ships. We're here to take the station. She opened a channel to the station itself. Nexus Prime Control, this is Captain Rebecca Torres of the United Earth Navy. Your defense fleet is destroyed. Your weapons are offline. Surrender the station and no further harm will come to your people. There was a long pause. Then the high speaker's voice came through, distorted by static but still recognizable. You dare? He said. His voice that usually sounded like wind chimes now sounded like breaking glass. You dare attack the Council? You will be hunted across the galaxy. Every species will turn against you. You have signed humanity's death warrant. You signed it when you killed our children, Torres said. Her voice was ice. You signed it when you attacked New Havana. You thought we were weak. You thought we would submit. You were wrong. Now surrender the station or I will take it by force. Never, the high speaker said. The Council does not surrender to primitives. Torres closed the channel. He made his choice. All ships begin siege operations. I want that station disabled but intact. Marine assault teams prepare for boarding. The human fleet moved closer. Not attacking now, just surrounding. Containment, pressure. Waiting for the moment to strike. Inside Nexus Prime, Ambassador Chen Wei watched the battle unfold from her quarters. The station shook with each impact. Emergency lights flickered. Outside her window she could see human ships everywhere. A wall of metal and death that had appeared as if from nowhere. Her door chimed. She opened it carefully. On the other side stood the Andorian ambassador, the kind one who had always supported Earth. He looked terrified. Ambassador Chen, he said, what is happening? Where did all these ships come from? Chen looked at him. They had worked together for 5 years. He had been a friend, or as close to a friend as diplomacy allowed. She owed him honesty. They came from the shadows, she said. They came from the places the Council never looked. They came from humanity's paranoia and humanity's determination to never be victims again. But there are thousands of them, he said. I didn't know humans had thousands of ships. Nobody knew, Chen said. That was the point. The Council thought they knew everything about us. They thought they had us counted and categorized and controlled. They were wrong. The station shook again, harder this time. Something had hit the outer ring. The high speaker won't surrender, the Andorian said. He can't. If the Council surrenders to one species, the Empire falls apart. Every species will think they can challenge Council authority. Then the Empire falls apart, Chen said simply. The Council made their choice. Humanity is making ours. She walked to the window. Outside she could see human Marines launching from assault ships. Thousands of them in powered armor flying across the gap between ships and station. They hit the outer hull and began cutting their way inside. The boarding had begun. Major Carlos Ruiz led Alpha Company of the 7th Marine Division. They were the first through the hull breach. Inside was a corridor designed for Valorians, which meant it was huge by human standards. Crystal walls reflected their armor lights in 1,000 directions. "Secure the corridor," Ruiz ordered. "Watch for automated defenses." His Marines moved forward in perfect formation. They had trained for station assault in simulation 100 times. Now it was real. Now lives depended on getting it right. Something moved at the end of the corridor. Ruiz's helmet display identified it as a Council security bot. Military hardware. Armed and dangerous. "Contact front," he called. "Take it down," his Marines fired. The bullets were specially designed for station combat. Low velocity, high impact. Enough to destroy targets without penetrating the hull. The security bot sparked and fell. They moved deeper. More corridors, more bots. Occasional firefights with Council security forces. But no civilians. The evacuation seemed to be working. The station was emptying from the inside out. "Command, this is Alpha Leader," Ruiz reported. "We have control of Section 47. Moving to power distribution." "Copy that, Alpha Leader," came the response. Multiple teams report similar progress. The station is falling faster than expected. It was falling because the Council had never prepared for this. They had never imagined anyone would dare attack Nexus Prime. Their security was designed to stop small terrorist actions, not a full military assault by thousands of professional soldiers. Ruiz and his team reached the power distribution center. It was a massive room full of incomprehensible alien technology, crystals that glowed with inner light, conduits that seemed to bend space, energy flowing in patterns that human physics couldn't quite explain. "Demolitions expert," Ruiz called. "Wire it." A Marine stepped forward with shaped charges. They would destroy the power system without causing a catastrophic explosion. The station would go dark, but it wouldn't break apart. People would survive. "Charges set," the expert reported. "Ready to blow on your order." Ruiz contacted command. "Alpha Leader to Fleet Command. Power distribution is wired. Awaiting authorization." Captain Torres's voice came back immediately. "Authorization confirmed." "Blow it." Ruiz stepped back. "Fire in the hole." The charges detonated. The strange alien machinery sparked and died. Throughout Nexus Prime, lights went out. Gravity failed in some sections. Life support switched to emergency backup. The station was dying. But the people were safe. The evacuation had worked. Millions of civilians were now aboard human medical frigates, confused and scared but alive. Humanity was showing mercy even in the midst of war. That mercy would confuse the Council more than the weapons had. In the Council chamber, the High Speaker stood alone. His crystalline body was dark now, without power to make it shine. Around him, the other ambassadors had fled. The grand room that had seen 10,000 years of deliberation was empty except for him. He heard footsteps. Human footsteps, heavy with armor. He turned to see a human Marine enter, weapon ready. "High Speaker," the Marine said. "I'm here to escort you to human custody." "I will not surrender," the High Speaker said. "I will not give your species the satisfaction." The Marine's helmet retracted, showing a woman's face. She looked tired, sad, but determined. "With respect, sir, you don't have a choice," she said. "The station is ours. Your fleet is destroyed. Your people are safe in our care. The only question now is whether you come quietly, or whether I have to stun you and carry you out. Either way, you're coming." The High Speaker looked at her, looked at this human who had conquered his unconquerable station, looked at the weapon she carried, advanced beyond anything the Council possessed, looked at the determination in her eyes. He remembered New Havana, remembered giving the order to fire on civilians, remembered thinking it would break humanity's spirit. He had been so very wrong. "I will walk," he said quietly. "Thank you," the Marine said. She gestured toward the door. "This way, please." As they walked through the darkened corridors, the High Speaker asked, "Why?" "Why what?" the Marine responded. "Why show mercy? Why evacuate civilians? Why not simply destroy us all? That is what the Council would have done to you." The Marine stopped walking. She looked at him with something that might have been pity. "Because we're not you," she said. "We're not the Council. We fight when we have to. We kill when we must. But we don't murder children to make points. We don't commit genocide to prove power. We remember what it's like to be the victims. We swore we would never become the oppressors." "Noble words," the High Speaker said. "But words change nothing. You have started a war that will consume the galaxy." "No," the Marine said. You started it when you attacked New Havana. We're just finishing it. They continued walking. Behind them, Nexus Prime fell silent. The station that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years was now a darkened shell, occupied by human forces, its power broken in less than 6 hours. In the war room beneath Geneva, Admiral Kozlov watched the final reports come in. Nexus Prime captured. Council defense fleet scattered. Casualties minimal on both sides. The operation had been a complete success. But she felt no triumph. Only a bone-deep weariness. They had crossed a threshold today. Humanity had revealed itself to the galaxy not as a peaceful species, but as a warrior race that had been hiding its fangs. The galaxy would never see them the same way again. The question was whether that was a good thing or the beginning of something terrible. "What now?" General Chen asked quietly. "Now we wait," Kozlov said. "The Council species will respond. They'll try to rally, try to counterattack, and we'll be ready for them." "How long can we keep this up?" he asked. "We surprised them today. But they outnumber us. They have resources we can't match." "They have numbers," Kozlov agreed. "But we have something better. We have the truth. And the truth is that empires built on fear and oppression always fall. We're just helping this one fall faster." She looked at the galactic display. Red dots were winking out as Council military installations fell. Blue dots spread across known space as human forces secured their victories. The map was changing. The galaxy was changing. And somewhere out there, the Council species were learning a lesson humanity had known for a long time. The strong don't always win. The survivors win. And humanity had survived worse than the Galactic Council. The Valorian homeworld of Crystallis shimmered in the light of its binary suns. The entire planet was one vast city, structures of living crystal that had grown for millennia. 5 billion Valorians lived there, and all of them were watching their sky with growing horror. Human warships hung in orbit, hundreds of them dark against the stars. They didn't fire. They didn't attack. They just waited, silent, menacing. A constant reminder that the Valorians were no longer the masters of their own fate. On the surface, in the grand spire that served as the Valorian seat of government, the Council of Elders met in emergency session. Their crystalline bodies were dim with stress. Some were cracked, physical manifestations of psychological trauma. The war was 6 hours old and already their empire was crumbling. Elder Crystallis stood at the center of the chamber. She was ancient, even by Valorian standards. She had lived for 7,000 years. She had seen the rise of the Council. She had watched countless species join and submit. She had never imagined she would see this day. "The human fleet has blockaded all 3 of our core worlds," she said. Her voice was hollow. "They have destroyed our shipyards, our military bases, our command networks. In 6 hours, they have accomplished what should have taken years." "How is this possible?" another elder demanded. "We monitored them. We watched their every move. They had 300 ships. They lied," Crystallis said simply. "They have been lying to us for 73 years. While we thought we knew everything about humanity, they were building a hidden empire in the darkness. And now that empire has come for us. We must counterattack," a younger elder said. His crystal body pulsed with anger. "We must rally our forces and strike back. We cannot simply surrender to primitives." "With what forces?" Crystallis asked. "Our fleet is scattered. Our base is destroyed, and they are not attacking us." "Not really. Look at what they are doing." She activated a holographic display. It showed human ships in orbit. Not firing, not bombarding, just watching, and beneath them on the planet's surface human shuttles were landing, but not with soldiers. "With supplies, they are sending food," Crystallis said. "Medical supplies, construction materials. They are helping the populations whose military bases they destroyed. They are showing mercy." "It is a trick," the angry elder said. "They want us weak and dependent." "If they wanted us weak, they would bomb our cities from orbit," Crystallis said. "They have the power, the weapons, but they are not using them. They are showing us something, teaching us a lesson." "What lesson?" another elder asked. "That they are not like us." Crystallis said quietly. "We thought all species would act as we act, conquer, dominate, destroy threats before they became dangerous. But humans are different. They prepare for war while hoping for peace. They build terrible weapons and then show restraint in using them. They are teaching us that strength and mercy are not opposites." The chamber fell silent. Outside, through the crystal walls, they could see the human ships. Waiting. Always waiting. A communication signal came through. Human origin. Crystalis activated it. A human face appeared on the display. Admiral Sarah Kozlov, the architect of their destruction. Council of Elders, Kozlov said. Her voice was calm, professional. I am calling to discuss terms. Terms of our surrender? Crystalis asked. Terms of the peace, Kozlov corrected. You seem to think this is about conquest. It's not. We don't want your worlds. We don't want your resources. We want you to stop threatening human lives. And if we refuse, then the blockade continues, Kozlov said. Indefinitely. Your people won't starve. We'll make sure they have what they need. But you won't build ships. You won't manufacture weapons. You won't pose a threat to anyone. Your empire is over. The only question is whether you accept that peacefully or whether we have to enforce it. Crystalis looked at the other elders. She saw fear in their crystalline faces, fear and something else. Relief. The burden of empire had weighed on them for millennia. Maybe it was time to set it down. What are your terms? She asked. Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. On the Zephix collective worlds, where the hive minds struggled to process the reality of their defeat. On the Krell warrior planets, where military leaders grappled with the impossible fact that they had been outfought by a species they considered primitive. On dozens of council worlds, leaders faced the same choice. Adapt or be contained. Most chose adaptation. A few chose defiance. Those few learned that human patience had limits. The Krell High Command refused to surrender. They claimed they would fight to the last Krell, rather than submit to human authority. Admiral Kozlov gave them 12 hours to reconsider. When they refused again, she gave the order. Human ships didn't bombard the Krell worlds. Instead, they deployed something more subtle, more devastating. Quantum inhibitors that prevented faster-than-light travel. Energy dampeners that disabled power generation beyond basic life support. Communication jammers that isolated each Krell world from the others. The Krell Empire was cut off. Isolated. Alone. Each world could survive, but they couldn't coordinate. Couldn't plan. Couldn't resist. Within a week, local Krell governments were negotiating with human administrators. Within 2 weeks, the Krell High Command was overthrown by their own military officers, who saw that continued resistance was suicide. The lesson was clear. Humanity would not be cruel, but they would be relentless. Resistance was not only futile, it was pointless. Better to accept the new reality and work within it. But while the Council species were learning these lessons, humanity was searching for something more important. Justice. The 5 hierarchs who had ordered the attack on New Havana had gone into hiding the moment the war began. They had seen the tide turning and fled to secret locations across the galaxy, bunkers built to survive any attack, hidden stations in dark space, places where even human sensors couldn't find them, or so they thought. Colonel Maria Santos led the Special Operations Division. Her unit didn't fly warships or command armies. They found people who didn't want to be found, and the 5 hierarchs were at the top of her list. Target 1 is on Sanctuary Station, her intelligence officer reported. It's a hidden base in the Outer Rim. No records in any database. We only found it because we've been monitoring energy signatures in that region for 3 years. 3 years. Humanity had been watching, preparing, learning. Even before the war started, they had identified escape routes, bolt holes, emergency retreats. Because humans understood survival, they knew how people thought when their power was threatened. Assemble the team, Santos ordered. We go in 12 hours. Sanctuary Station was supposed to be invisible. It had no running lights, no active sensors. It drifted in the darkness between stars, powered down to minimal levels. A perfect hiding place. It would have worked against any council species. But humans had learned to hunt in the dark. They had evolved on a world where predators came in the night. They understood darkness better than species who had always lived in the light. The human stealth ship. Whisper approached Sanctuary Station with all systems cold. No active scans, no communications, just passive sensors that detected the faint heat signature of the station's life support. They drifted closer, matching velocity perfectly until they were close enough to deploy boarding teams. Colonel Santos and her team crossed the gap in silence. Their suits were black against black, invisible in the void. They touched the station's hull and attached magnetic clamps. Then they began cutting. The station's hull was supposed to be impenetrable. It was made of composite materials that could withstand meteor strikes, but human cutting tools operated at the molecular level, dissolving bonds rather than breaking them. The hull parted like water. Santos led her team inside. The interior was dark and cold. Life support at minimal levels to avoid detection. Her helmet display showed thermal signatures in the distance. One signature was stronger than the others. Higher body temperature. A Valorian. Target 1, the high speaker himself. They moved through the corridors silently. Every member of Santos's team had trained for years in zero-gravity combat. They knew how to move without sound, how to breathe without disturbing the air, how to be ghosts. The high speaker's chamber was at the center of the station, a small room with basic amenities. He sat in the darkness, his crystalline body providing its own faint light. He was meditating, or trying to. He must have known they were coming. Must have felt his empire collapse around him. Santos entered the room. The high speaker didn't move, didn't react, just sat there in the darkness. "High speaker," Santos said quietly, "you are under arrest for war crimes against humanity." "I will not go quietly," he said. His voice was hollow, defeated but still defiant. "You don't have to go quietly," Santos said. "But you will go. We can do this peacefully or I can stun you and carry you out. Your choice." The high speaker turned to look at her. His crystalline face reflected her helmet lights. "Why?" he asked. "Why does it matter? Why not simply execute me? That is what the council would do." "Because humans believe in justice," Santos said. "Not revenge. You committed crimes. You will face trial. The galaxy will see what you did and judge you for it. That's how civilization works. That's what the council forgot." "The council was civilization," the high speaker said. "For 10,000 years we maintained order, peace, stability." "You maintained control," Santos corrected. "There's a difference. Control through fear isn't peace. It's just delayed war. And now the war has come." She extended her hand. "Come with me. Face what you've done. Maybe you'll learn something." The high speaker looked at her hand, then at her face, then at the darkness that surrounded them both. He stood, he took her hand. "I will go," he said. "I will face your justice. And I will show the galaxy that the Valorians do not hide from judgment." Over the next 2 weeks, Colonel Santos and her teams found the other 4 hierarchs. Each one was hiding in a different secret location. Each one thought they were safe. Each one was wrong. Human intelligence had tracked them all. Human determination had found them all. Human justice would judge them all. The trial was held on New Havana, or what was left of it. The colony was rebuilding, but the scars of the council attack were still visible. Entire city blocks reduced to rubble. Memorial walls listing the names of the dead. Survivors working alongside human engineers to rebuild their home. This was where the hierarchs would face judgment. In the place where they had committed their crime. In front of the people they had harmed. The trial was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species could watch. Every being could see. Humanity wanted this public. Wanted it transparent. Wanted the galaxy to understand that this was not revenge. This was accountability. Ambassador Chen Wei served as the chief prosecutor. She stood before the hierarchs in a simple courtroom. Nothing fancy, nothing dramatic. Just a room where truth would be spoken and judgment would be given. "You are charged with ordering the deliberate attack on a civilian population," she said. Her voice was steady, calm. The voice of justice, not anger. 40,000 humans died. Men, women, children. You killed them to make a point. To frighten humanity into submission. How do you plead? The high speaker stood. He was bound in energy restraints, but he stood tall, dignified despite his defeat. "I plead necessity," he said. "The council believed humanity posed a threat. We acted to neutralize that threat before it grew beyond control." "By killing children?" Chen asked. "By bombing hospitals and schools? That was your solution to a perceived threat?" "It was the council's way," the high speaker said. "For 10,000 years we have maintained peace through strength, through fear when necessary. Humanity was growing too powerful, too aggressive. We had to act." "You acted out of fear," Chen said. "You attacked first because you were afraid of what we might do. And in doing so, you proved that the council was never about peace. It was about control, about keeping anyone from challenging your power." She turned to the judges. They were not all human. Humanity had invited representatives from dozens of species to sit in judgment. Species who had suffered under council rule, species who understood what it meant to be threatened by those stronger than themselves. The evidence is clear, Chen said. The hierarchs ordered an attack on civilians. They did not target military installations. They did not declare war. They simply murdered 40,000 people to prove they could. Under the laws of the council itself, this constitutes a war crime. Under human law, it is mass murder. Under any moral framework, it is inexcusable. The trial lasted 3 days. Witnesses testified. Evidence was presented. The hierarchs were allowed to speak in their own defense. Everything was recorded. Everything was broadcast. When the verdict came, it was unanimous. Guilty on all charges. The sentence was life imprisonment, not execution. The judges made that clear. Humanity did not kill prisoners, did not practice revenge. The hierarchs would live out their remaining years in confinement, alive to think about what they had done. Alive to serve as a reminder of the cost of tyranny. As the hierarchs were led away, the high speaker stopped. He looked at Chen Wei. "You have won," he said. "You have destroyed the council. You have shown your strength. But what comes next? Who will maintain order in the galaxy now? Who will prevent chaos?" Chen met his eyes. The species of the galaxy will maintain order themselves. As equals, not subjects and masters, but partners. That's the world we're building. A world where no one has the power to do what you did. Naive, the high speaker said. The strong always dominate the weak. That is the law of nature. Then humanity is changing the law, Chen said. Watch us. In the weeks following the trial, humanity began the work of rebuilding. Not just New Havana, but the entire galactic order. The council was dissolved officially. Its military was dismantled. Its laws were reviewed and reformed. Species that had been oppressed for generations suddenly found themselves free to speak, to choose, to exist without fear. It was messy. It was complicated. Some species didn't know what to do with freedom. Others took advantage of the chaos to settle old grudges. There were conflicts, disputes, problems that the council had suppressed for millennia came boiling to the surface. But humanity didn't solve these problems with force. They mediated. They negotiated. They helped species find common ground. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it didn't, but always they tried. Always they believed that cooperation was better than domination. In the war room beneath Geneva, Admiral Kozlov watched the reports flow in. Mostly good news, some bad. The galaxy was adapting to the new reality. Slowly, painfully, but adapting. Do you think it will work? General Chen asked. This idea of a free galaxy. Species working together as equals. I don't know, Kozlov admitted. Maybe, maybe not. But I know the alternative doesn't work. The council proved that. 10,000 years of peace through oppression, and it collapsed in 6 hours. That's not stability. That's just a prison waiting for someone to open the door. So we opened it, Chen said. So we opened it, Kozlov agreed. Now we see what walks out. They stood together in silence, watching the galaxy change. Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the small dramas of mortal beings. But the beings themselves were different now, changed by fire and battle and the sudden understanding that the old ways were gone forever. Humanity had erased the council, but they had also erased the idea that power alone determined right. They had shown the galaxy that strength could be merciful, that justice could be more powerful than domination, that the future didn't have to repeat the past. It was a lesson the galaxy would need time to learn. But humanity had time, and patience, and the absolute certainty that they had done the right thing. The council was gone. The line had been crossed, and humanity had answered with fire and mercy in equal measure. The galaxy would never be the same. 3 months after the war ended, the galaxy was still learning what peace looked like. Not the peace of the council, which had been silence enforced by fear. Real peace. Messy, complicated, sometimes frustrating peace where species actually talked to each other instead of obeying orders from above. The conference center on the rebuilt New Havana colony was packed. Representatives from 147 species filled the auditorium. Some sat in chairs designed for their biology. Others floated in containment fields. A few existed as energy patterns projected onto screens. The galaxy was diverse in ways the council had tried to suppress. Now that diversity was on full display, Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the podium. She looked tired. The last 3 months had been the hardest of her life. Harder than the war itself. At least during the war, the goals were clear. Survive. Win. But peace required something more difficult. It required building something new from the wreckage of the old. "Thank you all for coming," she said. Her voice was transmitted in real time to translation devices that rendered her words into 147 different languages. "We are here today to discuss the formation of a new galactic organization, one based on different principles than the Council, one that treats all species as equals." There was murmuring in the audience, some supportive, some skeptical. A Krell representative stood, his massive armored form towering over those around him. "With respect, Ambassador Chen," he said, "humans destroyed the Council. Humans control the most powerful military force in the galaxy. How can you claim to want equality when you hold all the power?" It was a fair question. One that Chen had been asked in various forms for 3 months. One that humanity had been debating among themselves since the war ended. What did you do with power when you had it? How did you avoid becoming what you had fought against? "You're right," Chen said. "Humanity does hold significant military power. We're not going to pretend otherwise. But power and authority are not the same thing. We have the ability to enforce our will. We choose not to. Instead, we propose a system where decisions are made collectively, where no single species can impose its will on others." "Easy to say when you're the strongest," someone called from the back. "What happens when someone challenges you? What happens when your interests conflict with others?" "Then we negotiate," Chen said. "We compromise. We find solutions that work for everyone. Or we agree to disagree and go our separate ways. That's what equals do." A Valorian delegate stood. Her crystalline body was marked with dark lines, physical scars from the war. Chen recognized her. She had lost family in the human bombardment of a military base. "My people followed the Council for 7,000 years. The Valorian said. "We believed in their system, their order. You destroyed that in ours. Now you tell us to believe in your system instead. Why should we trust you?" Chen looked at her. Really looked at her. Saw the pain and the anger and the fear. All valid. All earned. "You shouldn't trust us," Chen said quietly. "Not blindly. Trust has to be earned. The Council demanded trust through fear. We're asking you to give us a chance to earn it through actions. Judge us by what we do, not what we say." "And what have you done?" the Valorian asked. "You destroyed our military, killed our leaders, occupied our worlds." "We destroyed your military capability to threaten others," Chen corrected. "We put your leaders on trial for war crimes, not summary execution. And we didn't occupy your worlds. We established a presence to maintain order while your societies adapted. A presence that is already withdrawing." She pulled up a holographic display. It showed human forces across the galaxy. Blue dots representing ship positions and troop deployments. "This was our deployment 3 months ago," she said. The display was dense with blue. Human forces everywhere, overwhelming in their presence. "This is our deployment today." The display changed. Half the blue dots vanished. The remaining forces were concentrated around critical locations. Humanitarian zones, disputed borders, places where conflicts might erupt without a stabilizing presence. "We are pulling back," Chen said. "Returning ships to Earth, demobilizing troops, reducing our footprint, because we meant what we said. We didn't fight this war to build an empire. We fought to break one." The audience was quiet. The evidence was there on the display. Human forces withdrawing, human presence shrinking. It could be a trick, of course. A temporary measure before reasserting control. But it could also be the truth. "What do you want from us?" a small voice asked. It came from a Torvan delegate, a species that had been barely noticed during Council rule. They were herbivores, peaceful, technologically limited, the kind of species the Council had protected in theory while exploiting in practice. "We want you to have a voice," Chen said. "The Council spoke for everyone, made decisions for everyone. We're proposing something different. A free systems alliance where each species governs itself, where decisions that affect everyone are made by everyone, where no one can impose their will on others without consequences." "And if we refuse to join?" the Torvan asked. "If we want to remain independent?" "Then you remain independent," Chen said. "The alliance is voluntary. No one is forced to join. No one is punished for staying out. The only requirement is that you don't attack others. Beyond that, you're free to live as you choose." A Zephic swarm drifted forward. Its voice buzzed and clicked, translated into human speech. "The Council maintained order for 10,000 years. What makes you think your alliance can do better? Because we're not maintaining order, Chen said. We're creating the conditions for peace. There's a difference. Order is imposed from above. Peace grows from mutual respect and shared interests. The council had order. But they never had peace. Not real peace. Just the absence of war because everyone was too afraid to fight. She paused, gathering her thoughts. This was the important part. The part where she had to make them understand. My species has a long history of war, she said. We fought each other for thousands of years. We nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. We learned some hard lessons. One of them is this. Peace doesn't come from having one power strong enough to enforce it. Peace comes from everyone having a stake in maintaining it, from building connections that make war unthinkable because the cost is too high. Noble words, the Krell representative said. But the galaxy is not your Earth. There are species here who have been enemies for millennia. Grievances that predate your civilization. How do you resolve those? Honestly, Chen said. I don't know. Maybe some of those conflicts can't be resolved. Maybe some species will never be friends. But they don't have to be friends. They just have to agree not to kill each other. And if they can't agree to that, then the alliance helps their neighbors defend themselves. She changed the display again. Now it showed a map of the galaxy divided into regions. We're proposing a federal structure. Each region governs itself, handles its own disputes. The alliance only intervenes when conflicts threaten to spread. When one species attacks another without cause, we're not trying to solve every problem, just the ones that affect everyone. The discussion continued for hours, questions, objections, concerns. Chen answered them all as honestly as she could. Sometimes she had good answers. Sometimes she didn't, but she never lied. Never promised more than humanity could deliver. Never pretended she had all the solutions. By the end of the day, 73 species had signed the founding charter of the Free Systems Alliance. Not all of them. Not even a majority, but enough. Enough to start building something new. While Chen was building political structures, others were building something more personal. Captain Marcus Johnson had retired from the military a week after the war ended. He had served for 30 years. He had commanded ships in the battle that destroyed the Council fleet. He was a hero by anyone's definition. He was also tired. Tired of war, tired of death, tired of making decisions that cost lives. He wanted something different, something constructive. So he opened a flight school. It was on a space station in neutral territory, somewhere no single species controlled. The school accepted students from any species, human, Valorian, Krell, Zephix, anyone who wanted to learn. What made it unusual was what Johnson taught. Human tactics, human strategy, the methods that had defeated the Council fleet. He was teaching former enemies how humans fought, giving them the knowledge that had made humanity so dangerous. Some people thought he was crazy. Some thought he was a traitor. But Johnson had thought it through carefully. The secret of human success wasn't really secret. It was adaptability, creativity, the willingness to try new things instead of relying on old methods. Those weren't things you could hide. They were approaches to problem solving. And if other species learned them, if they became more adaptable and creative themselves, the galaxy would be safer for everyone. His first class had 30 students. 10 species. They sat in a simulator room, watching Johnson demonstrate a tactical scenario. The Council would have approached this engagement head-on, he said. Standard battle line. Maximum firepower. Textbook tactics that have been used for thousands of years. Can anyone tell me why that's a bad idea? A young Krell raised his hand. Or his equivalent. Krell didn't have hands exactly. Because textbook tactics are predictable. The enemy knows what you will do. Exactly, Johnson said. Predictability is death in combat. The moment your enemy knows your next move, you've lost. So what do humans do differently? He ran the simulation. Instead of forming a battle line, the human ships scattered. Broke formation. Moved in patterns that seemed random. When they attacked, they came from 6 directions at once, each group using different weapons and tactics. We improvise, Johnson said. We adapt. We don't have one way of fighting. We have 1,000 ways, and we choose the one that fits the situation. That's what makes us effective. Not better technology, not superior numbers, just the willingness to try something new. A Valorian student flickered with interest. But how do you coordinate such chaos? How do you ensure your forces work together when everyone is doing something different? Trust, Johnson said. We trust our officers to make good decisions. We give them objectives, not detailed orders. We train them to think, not just obey. That's what the council never understood. They thought central control was strength. But it was weakness. When your commanders can't adapt without orders from above, you lose. The students watched the simulation play out. The improvised human attack overwhelmed the defender in minutes. Not through superior force, but through unpredictability, through creativity, through doing things the enemy never expected. Your assignment, Johnson said, is to design your own tactical approach, something different from what your species normally does, something that would surprise an enemy. We'll run simulations next week and see how they perform. After class, several students stayed behind. They had questions. Not about tactics, but about something deeper. Captain Johnson, the Krell student said, "Why are you teaching us this? We were your enemies. We fought against humanity. Why give us these advantages?" Johnson looked at him. The Krell was young, maybe 20 years old by human standards. He had grown up being told that humans were primitives, weak, worthy of contempt. Now he was learning that everything he had been taught was wrong. That took courage. Because the next threat to the galaxy won't be human, Johnson said. It will be something else. Something we haven't encountered yet. And when that threat comes, I want every species capable of defending themselves. I want a galaxy full of creative, adaptable fighters who can work together. That's how we survive. Not by hoarding knowledge, but by sharing it. But what if someone uses these tactics against humanity? The Valorian asked. Johnson smiled. Then we adapt. That's what humans do. We learn, we change. We find new solutions. If teaching you makes us have to get better ourselves, that's a good thing. It keeps us sharp. He looked at all of them. Young beings from species that had been enemies. Now students. Maybe someday friends. The council fell because it stopped adapting, he said. It kept using the same methods for 10,000 years. That's not strength. That's stagnation. Humanity won't make that mistake. We'll keep changing. Keep learning. Keep improving. And we'll help you do the same. Because a galaxy full of strong, independent species is safer than one dominated by a single power. Even if that power is us. While Johnson taught future warriors, Commander Yuki Tanaka was building something different. She had been the intelligence officer who infiltrated the Krell High Command during the war. She had spent 3 months behind enemy lines, gathering information, sabotaging communications. She was very good at finding secrets. Now she was using those skills for something else. She became the first director of the Alliance Intelligence Service. Not a spy agency, though there was some of that. Mainly it was an information-sharing network. Species could share intelligence about threats, pirates, smugglers, rogue factions that rejected the new order. The service helped everyone stay safe. But Tanaka's real goal was transparency. The council had kept secrets, had classified everything, had maintained power through information control. The Alliance would do the opposite, would share what it knew, would let species make informed decisions instead of operating in the dark. It was revolutionary. It was terrifying. And it was working. Tanaka sat in her office on New Havana reviewing the latest reports. Pirate activity near the rim. A territorial dispute between 2 former council species. Early signs of a possible famine on a recently liberated world. Nothing catastrophic. Nothing that required military intervention. Just problems that needed attention. She composed her daily briefing. It would be transmitted to all Alliance members. Everyone would see the same information. No secrets, no hidden agendas, just facts and analysis. Her deputy, a Valorian named Crystallus, entered the office. She was young by Valorian standards, only 300 years old. She had joined the service because she wanted to be part of something new, something better than the old order. "Director," she said, "we have a situation. A Krell faction is refusing to disarm as agreed. They say they need weapons for self-defense." Tanaka pulled up the relevant files. The faction in question was in a region bordering former enemy territory. They had legitimate concerns about security, but they had also agreed to disarm as part of the peace treaty. "What do they actually need?" Tanaka asked. "Not what they want. What do they need to feel safe?" Crystallus considered. "They need to know they can defend themselves if attacked. They need confidence that the Alliance will respond to threats in their region." "Then let's give them that confidence," Tanaka said. "Offer to station an Alliance rapid response team near their territory. Mixed species. Not human-dominated." Show them they're not alone. If they still refuse to disarm, we revisit the situation. The Krell are proud, Crystalis said. They may see that as an insult, as implying they can't defend themselves. Then we ask them to contribute to the rapid response team, Tanaka said. Let them be part of their own security solution. They want to keep weapons? Fine. Let them use those weapons as part of a legitimate defense force. That way we address their concerns and ours. Crystalis's crystal body glowed brighter, the Valorian equivalent of a smile. That's clever. You're not forcing them to comply. You're giving them a way to comply while maintaining their dignity. That's the job, Tanaka said. The council would have threatened them, given them an ultimatum. We give them options, help them find solutions they can live with. It's slower, more complicated, but it works better in the long run. What made it unusual was what Johnson taught. Human tactics, human strategy, the methods that had defeated the council fleet. He was teaching former enemies how humans fought, giving them the knowledge that had made humanity so dangerous. Some people thought he was crazy. Some thought he was a traitor. But Johnson had thought it through carefully. The secret of human success wasn't really secret. It was adaptability, creativity, the willingness to try new things instead of relying on old methods. Those weren't things you could hide. They were approaches to problem solving. And if other species learned them, if they became more adaptable and creative themselves, the galaxy would be safer for everyone. His first class had 30 students. 10 species. They sat in a simulator room, watching Johnson demonstrate a tactical scenario. The council would have approached this engagement head-on, he said. Standard battle line, maximum firepower, textbook tactics that have been used for thousands of years. Can anyone tell me why that's a bad idea? A young Krell raised his hand. Or his equivalent. Krell didn't have hands exactly. Because textbook tactics are predictable. The enemy knows what you will do. Exactly, Johnson said. Predictability is death in combat. The moment your enemy knows your next move, you've lost. So what do humans do differently? He ran the simulation. Instead of forming a battle line, the human ships scattered, broke formation, moved in patterns that seemed random. When they attacked, they came from 6 directions at once, each group using different weapons and tactics. We improvise, Johnson said. We adapt. We don't have one way of fighting. We have 1,000 ways, and we choose the one that fits the situation. That's what makes us effective. Not better technology, not superior numbers, just the willingness to try something new. A Valorian student flickered with interest. But how do you coordinate such chaos? How do you ensure your forces work together when everyone is doing something different? Trust, Johnson said. We trust our officers to make good decisions. We give them objectives, not detailed orders. We train them to think, not just obey. That's what the council never understood. They thought central control was strength. But it was weakness. When your commanders can't adapt without orders from above, you lose. The students watched the simulation play out. The improvised human attack overwhelmed the defender in minutes. Not through superior force, but through unpredictability, through creativity, through doing things the enemy never expected. Your assignment, Johnson said, is to design your own tactical approach, something different from what your species normally does, something that would surprise an enemy. We'll run simulations next week and see how they perform. After class, several students stayed behind. They had questions. Not about tactics, but about something deeper. Captain Johnson, the Krell student said, why are you teaching us this? We were your enemies. We fought against humanity. Why give us these advantages? Johnson looked at him. The Krell was young, maybe 20 years old by human standards. He had grown up being told that humans were primitives, weak, worthy of contempt. Now he was learning that everything he had been taught was wrong. That took courage. Because the next threat to the galaxy won't be human, Johnson said. It will be something else. Something we haven't encountered yet. And when that threat comes, I want every species capable of defending themselves. I want a galaxy full of creative, adaptable fighters who can work together. That's how we survive. Not by hoarding knowledge, but by sharing it. But what if someone uses these tactics against humanity? The Valorian asked. Johnson smiled. Then we adapt. That's what humans do. We learn, we change. We find new solutions. If teaching you makes us have to get better ourselves, that's a good thing. It keeps us sharp. He looked at all of them. Young beings from species that had been enemies. Now, students, Maybe someday friends. The council fell because it stopped adapting, he said. It kept using the same methods for 10,000 years. That's not strength. That's stagnation. Humanity won't make that mistake. We'll keep changing, keep learning, keep improving, and we'll help you do the same. Because a galaxy full of strong, independent species is safer than one dominated by a single power. Even if that power is us. While Johnson taught future warriors, Commander Yuki Tanaka was building something different. She had been the intelligence officer who infiltrated the Krell High Command during the war. She had spent 3 months behind enemy lines, gathering information, sabotaging communications. She was very good at finding secrets. Now she was using those skills for something else. She became the first director of the Alliance Intelligence Service. Not a spy agency, though there was some of that. Mainly it was an information-sharing network. Species could share intelligence about threats, pirates, smugglers, rogue factions that rejected the new order. The service helped everyone stay safe. But Tanaka's real goal was transparency. The council had kept secrets, had classified everything, had maintained power through information control. The Alliance would do the opposite, would share what it knew, would let species make informed decisions instead of operating in the dark. It was revolutionary. It was terrifying. And it was working. Tanaka sat in her office on New Havana reviewing the latest reports. Pirate activity near the rim, a territorial dispute between 2 former council species, early signs of a possible famine on a recently liberated world. Nothing catastrophic. Nothing that required military intervention. Just problems that needed attention. She composed her daily briefing. It would be transmitted to all Alliance members. Everyone would see the same information. No secrets, no hidden agendas, just facts and analysis. Her deputy, a Valorian named Crystallus, entered the office. She was young by Valorian standards, only 300 years old. She had joined the service because she wanted to be part of something new. Something better than the old order. Director, she said, we have a situation. A Krell faction is refusing to disarm as agreed. They say they need weapons for self-defense. Tanaka pulled up the relevant files. The faction in question was in a region bordering former enemy territory. They had legitimate concerns about security, but they had also agreed to disarm as part of the peace treaty. What do they actually need? Tanaka asked. Not what they want. What do they need to feel safe? Crystallus considered. They need to know they can defend themselves if attacked. They need confidence that the Alliance will respond to threats in their region. Then let's give them that confidence, Tanaka said. Offer to station an Alliance rapid response team near their territory. Mixed species. Not human-dominated. Show them they're not alone. If they still refuse to disarm, we revisit the situation. The Krell are proud, Crystallus said. They may see that as an insult, as implying they can't defend themselves. Then we ask them to contribute to the rapid response team, Tanaka said. Let them be part of their own security solution. They want to keep weapons? Fine. Let them use those weapons as part of a legitimate defense force. That way we address their concerns and ours. Crystallus's crystal body glowed brighter, the Valorian equivalent of a smile. That's clever. You're not forcing them to comply. You're giving them a way to comply while maintaining their dignity. That's the job, Tanaka said. The council would have threatened them, given them an ultimatum. We give them options, help them find solutions they can live with. It's slower, more complicated, but it works better in the long run. She sent the proposal to the Krell faction. Within hours they accepted. The situation that might have escalated into violence was resolved with conversation and compromise. It was a small victory, but small victories added up. 4 months after the war, Ambassador Chen Wei returned to Earth. She had been living on New Havana, coordinating the Alliance formation. Now she needed to report to the government, to explain what humanity had built, what it meant. She stood in the same war room, where Admiral Kozlov had planned the war, but now it was being converted to something else. A diplomatic coordination center, a place where humanity would track peaceful engagement rather than military campaigns. Admiral Kozlov was there. So was General Chen, her brother. So were the leaders of Earth's nations. They all looked at her expectantly. Well, the American president asked, will it work, this alliance of yours? Chen thought about the last 4 months, the challenges, the frustrations, the small successes. I don't know, she admitted. It's messy, complicated. Some species are adapting well. Others are struggling. There are conflicts we can't resolve. Problems we don't know how to fix. It's not perfect. But, Kozlov prompted. But it's better than the council, Chen said. It's better than one power making all the decisions. It's better than peace through fear. The species of the galaxy are talking to each other for the first time in millennia. Really talking. Not just obeying orders. That has to count for something. What about the critics? The Asian premier asked. The ones who say humanity is just a new council with a different name? They have a point, Chen admitted. We do hold significant power. We could become what we fought against if we're not careful. That's why we're withdrawing forces, why we're sharing technology, why we're giving other species the tools to become strong themselves. We're trying to create a balance of power rather than a hegemony. She pulled up a display. It showed the galaxy divided into regions, each managed by local species with alliance support. This is what we're building. Not an empire, not a federation. Something more like a neighborhood association. Species working together on common problems while governing themselves otherwise. And if it fails? The European Chancellor asked. If the alliance falls apart? Then at least we tried, Chen said. At least we gave the galaxy a chance to find a better way. The council lasted 10,000 years, but it was built on a foundation of oppression. It was always going to collapse eventually. We just accelerated the timeline. Now we have an opportunity to build something more stable, more just. If we succeed, the galaxy will be safer for everyone. If we fail, we'll learn from our mistakes and try again. Admiral Kozlov stood. She walked to the window that looked out over Geneva. Earth's cities, spread below, peaceful and prosperous. Humanity's cradle world, preserved despite the temptation to industrialize every meter of surface. My grandfather fought in the last World War, she said quietly. Before humanity unified, before we went to the stars, he used to tell me stories about the old days, the national conflicts, the nuclear standoffs, the times when we nearly destroyed ourselves. He said the only reason we survived was because we finally learned that cooperation was stronger than competition. She turned back to face them. The galaxy is learning that lesson now. We're teaching it to them. Not with words, but with actions. By showing that the strong can choose mercy, that the powerful can choose justice. That might doesn't have to make right. Do you think they'll remember the lesson? General Chen asked. Or will they forget once we're gone, once humanity isn't there to enforce it? I think they'll remember what we did, Kozlov said. Whether they learn from it is up to them. We can't force enlightenment. We can only model it and hope. 6 months after the war, they held a memorial ceremony on New Havana for the 40,000 who had died in the council attack, for the soldiers who had fallen in the war that followed, for all those who had paid the price for freedom. The memorial was a simple thing, a wall carved with names, each one representing a life lost, a future cut short, a family grieving. The wall was made of stone from Earth, brought across the stars to this colony world, a permanent reminder that humanity did not forget its dead. Ambassador Chen Wei stood before the wall and spoke to the gathered crowd. Humans, yes, but also Valorians, Krell, Zephics, and dozens of other species. Representatives from across the galaxy come to pay their respects. We remember, she said. We remember those who died here. We remember why they died. We remember the choice the council made and the consequences that followed. But we also remember something else. We remember mercy. She gestured to the crowd, to the aliens standing among the humans. Many of you fought against us, served the council that attacked this place. By the old rules, the rules of empire and conquest, you should be our enemies, but you're not. You're here, standing with us, mourning our dead, building a new future together. That's the lesson of New Havana, she continued. Not that the strong always win. Not that might makes right. But that justice is stronger than revenge. That mercy is more powerful than domination. That the future doesn't have to repeat the past. She touched the wall, felt the names carved into the stone. 40,000 lives, 40,000 reasons to hate, 40,000 justifications for vengeance. But humanity had chosen a different path, had chosen to build rather than destroy, to create rather than conquer. We will never forget what happened. Here, she said, we will never forgive what the council did. But we will not let this tragedy define us. We will not become what we fought against. Instead, we will remember these names and honor them by building a galaxy where such atrocities never happen again. The crowd was silent. Some were crying. Humans mourning their dead, but also Valorians, ashamed of what their leaders had done. Krell, understanding the cost of pride and aggression. Zephyx, processing the emotions their hive mind had never quite understood. After the ceremony, people lingered. They walked among the ruins, seeing where homes had stood, where schools had been, where children had played before the bombardment. The colony was rebuilding, but slowly, deliberately, keeping some of the ruins as reminders, making sure the next generation would know what happened here and why. An old Valorian approached Chen. His crystal body was cracked with age, marked with the dark lines of a long life. He moved slowly, painfully, but he moved with purpose. Ambassador Chen, he said. His voice was weak but clear. I was a council, military officer. I served for 4,000 years. I helped plan attacks like the one on this world. I am guilty of things I cannot undo. Chen looked at him, saw the regret in his crystalline face, saw the weight of millennia pressing down on him. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because I need you to understand, he said. What your species did, what you built, it is remarkable. Not because you won the war, because you showed mercy after winning, because you chose to build rather than destroy. In 4,000 years of service to the Council, I never saw that, never imagined it was possible. He touched the memorial wall. His crystalline fingers traced the names carved in stone. These people died because of the Council's fear, he said. Because we could not imagine a species stronger than us who did not seek to dominate. You have proven us wrong. You have shown the galaxy something new, something better. I will not live to see what comes of it, but I am grateful I lived long enough to see it begin. He walked away, slow and painful, carrying his regrets with him. Chen watched him go, felt the weight of his words, the burden of what humanity had taken on. They had broken an empire, started a war, killed thousands, all in the name of justice and self-defense. Now they were trying to build something better, trying to prove that the strong could be just, that the powerful could be merciful. It was a heavy burden, but someone had to carry it. 7 months after the war ended, a probe launched from former Council space. It was old technology, the kind the Council had used for millennia, simple, reliable, slow. It drifted through the galaxy on a pre-programmed route, visiting system after system, broadcasting a message on all frequencies. The message was simple, a warning, a lesson, a testament. To all species of the galaxy, the message said, this probe carries a record of the Council War, of how the Galactic Council attacked humanity without cause, of how humanity responded with overwhelming force, of how the empire of 10,000 years fell in hours to a species it had underestimated. The probe showed images, battle footage, the destruction of Nexus Prime, the trial of the hierarchs, the formation of the Free Systems Alliance, everything documented, everything preserved. The Council believed that strength meant domination. The message continued. They believed that peace came from fear. They believed that the strong could do as they wished to the weak. They were wrong. Humanity taught the galaxy a lesson. They were never the threat the Council feared. They were the warning the Council ignored. They prepared for war while hoping for peace. They built terrible weapons and then showed restraint in using them. They conquered the Council and then chose mercy over revenge. This is the lesson. The strong have a choice. They can dominate or they can lead. They can inspire fear or earn respect. They can build empires or foster communities. Humanity chose leadership, respect, and community. The galaxy is better for it. Remember this. Remember that the Council fell not because humanity was stronger, but because humanity was better. Remember that power without justice is tyranny, and tyranny always falls. Remember that the future belongs to those who build rather than conquer. The Council is gone. The galaxy is free. What comes next is up to all of us. Choose wisely. The probe continued its journey, carrying its message to every corner of known space, a reminder, a warning, a promise. The galaxy had changed. The old order was gone. What would replace it was still being written. But one thing was certain. No one would forget the day humanity erased the Council. No one would forget what happened when you crossed the line with Earth. And no one would make that mistake again.